Health is defined as the state of complete physical, mental, and social well being of an individual. When we say physical well being of an individual, it means that the individual is lacking any kind of bacterial infection or any kind of infection. It can be any disease. It can be a disease caused by some infectious agent or some non infectious agent. It can be some hereditary or genetic disease as well. But when an individual is lacking any physical problem, then the individual is healthy physically. When the individual is not suffering from mental depression or any psychological problem, then the individual is mentally healthy. When we say that the individual is socially fine, it means the individual can interact with his peers, can make friendly, can behave in a friendly way, have friends, and can interact and express his or her mental state. So, this makes an individual healthy. It is not only that a person lacking from any kind of physical problem means the individual is not suffering from any disease. It should be an overall well-being of an individual which is defined as a step or as a phase when the individual is completely healthy, or a condition where the individual is said to be completely healthy. Today, we will be discussing about some of the ways by which an individual can remain healthy, or and other than that, we will also discuss about some of the ways by which the diseases they can be caused to an individual. Whenever we think about diseases, disease means just the physical or the mental well-being or the social well-being of an individual is hampered or is abstained, so that causes the disease to outbreak. Broadly, the diseases they can be classified into two categories. The first category is of communicable diseases, whereas the second category is of all the non-communicable diseases. When I say a communicable disease, it means the disease can be transmitted from a healthy person, from an unhealthy person to a healthy person through various modes. And a non-communicable disease or a non-infectious disease, it cannot be transmitted from one individual to another, even if the individual comes in contact with the if even if the unhealthy individual comes in contact with the healthy individual. So here are some of the diagrams which can make it quite evident. The green color structure are the bacterium. So these bacterial infections, most of the time they can be transmitted from a unhealthy person to a healthy person. The fungal infections, they can also be transmitted with contact from a unhealthy person to a healthy person. Protozoan infections or the viral infections, these all different types of infections, they all can be transmitted from one individual to another with the mode of air, water, or some other mode. Even physical contact can be a condition by which these diseases they can be transmitted from a unhealthy person to a healthy person. What about the non-communicable disease or non-infectious disease? These diseases are hereditary and or genetic. They can be only transmitted from the parents to the offspring, and the genes should be expressed for expressing these characters. We cannot expect a person who is already suffering from a genetic disease to transmit the genetic disease from himself or herself to any healthy individual. Suppose I am talking about color blindness. It is a deficiency disease, right? So this deficiency or vitamin A deficiency disease, it cannot be transmitted to a person who is quite healthy and is not suffering, has proper amount of retinol in his or her body. So this transmission cannot take place. There are various diseases in the similar way, like meningitis is one of the disease, or you can think of some of the habits of individuals, like few individuals they have habit of chewing their nail. This cannot be transmitted from one person to another. These are something which are intact to the individual. It is a behavioral defect. So some of the behavioral defect, hereditary defects, or genetic defects which are present in an individual, they are non-communicable diseases, and they cannot be transmitted from one individual to another. just by contact, air, or just by any kind of contact. So, this is the basic outline difference between infectious and non infectious disease, or you can say communicable and non communicable disease. Here, the structure of blood is given. So, any disease which is present in an individual, like leukemia. Leukemia, one particular person is suffering from, that is blood cancer. So this individual cannot transmit it. Similarly, if someone is suffering from some mental depression, that person cannot transmit the disease. Congenitive disease like the coronary heart disease or any disease um which has bone marrow defect, these diseases or blood pressure, these cannot be transmitted from one individual to another just because they are in contact with each other. So in this way, non-communicable diseases, they cannot be transmitted, but communicable diseases, they can be transmitted. So this is the outline or basic idea. Now, when we talk about the disease which can be transmitted from one unhealthy person to a healthy person, then we must know that what are the different modes of transmission of these diseases. It can be a direct mode or an indirect mode. When I say that some direct mode is there, it means there can be physical contact with the individual who is suffering from the disease, or when the individual is speaking, or when the individual is coughing. During that time, some droplets, they get carried on the, or they get spread out from the mouth. They get carried on the dust particles in the surrounding air, and along with the dust particles, they move on to the entire environment. So anyone who comes in that particular environmental zone, they all will get infected with these with the same infection which the unhealthy person was suffering from because of air. And these kind of diseases are known as directly transmitted diseases through physical contact or airborne disease like droplet infection. Second mode is indirect contact. This indirect contact means there will be involvement of some vehicle. This vehicle, when I say, first thing which comes to your mind must be a carrier. So this carrier can be a pathogen, a mosquito or flies. So generally, these are the organisms which always fall in this category. Sometimes it can be non-living objects which can be transmitting the disease, like suppose someone has if you taste or if you use the same spoon which a particular person is using, so saliva comes in contact, so that way you are transmitting, or the transmission of disease can occur. Usage of same kind of clothes, fungal infections. Suppose a particular person is suffering from in a fungal infection in the neck, and you come in contact with the same towel, or you use the same towel of the same individual who has fungal infection, so you will also suffer from fungal infection. Usage of same handkerchief, a particular person has sore or fungal infection in their face, and you use the same handkerchief of your friend, then you also get infected. So these are the things which have to be kept in mind, that how you can get um, a particular disease. If you just keep in mind, then you will not be affected by, or you can avoid various diseases. When we say the vector mode or the carrier mode of transmission, it can be mechanical or it can be biological. Mechanical modes can be as such where the vector is directly infecting the organism with the help of some other tools. Whereas the tools which I was discussing, similarly, when I say biological tools, it can be propagative, like the viruses. The transmission of viruses is one of the example. Some other examples can be cyclodevelopmental. It means the filarial worms, the way they infect with the help of some host, flies and all. The cyclopropagative, like malarial. Again, the continuous growth, half of the life cycle is taking place in one organism and another half is taking place in some other organism, and this is how the transmission of malaria, it always takes place. The reproductive phase, it is always taking place in the mosquito. So We have to understand that how the diseases they are getting transmitted from one individual to another, and how can we control it. So if we keep this thing in mind, then it will be very easy for us to control. Now, uh, the same mode of transmission is also mentioned over here. Here the example is given in the form of a diagram. You all can see the contact areas. Skin is the contact area, and any individual who comes in contact with the needle, that person will get infected. If the individual has some injury, then the movement of bacteria or any pathogen can take place from that injury inside the organism. They can be bite by mosquito, or some filarial worms may enter the individual directly. Some animals, when you come in contact with them, they have the pest, and from that pest, the individual or the human beings, they also get infected. Sexual intercourse is also a mode by which various reproductive diseases are getting transmitted. You all have studied in details about it. Ingestion of poultry or egg. So, most of the diseases, they can be transmitted by consumption of various foods. Like pig, if someone consumes, then tinea solium can get, or tinea solium infection can occur in that individual. Similarly, consumption of poultry birds, it can also cause a huge outbreak of disease. Usage of same utensils can cause the disease. Inhalation of air which contains the virus or the bacterium can cause the disease. Even not cleaning your hands before consumption of food can cause the disease. Eating food on the street can cause can cause various diseases. So these are few things which we all are already aware of, but still, just a quick recapitulation of all the information is always better. So different kinds of causative agents which we will be focusing on will be fungus, protozoan, helminth, the viruses, and the bacterium. So these are all the different biological agents whose transmission we will be studying in details. Let us see how the infection actually takes place. The brown color mouse you can see, that is the mice which has presence of number one, the infectious microbe within itself. And from that mice, we have taken out that microbe and we have examined that, okay, this is how the infectious microbe exactly looks like. Now we have cultured the same microbe, and after culturing we have taken the microbe in a injection and pushed it inside the organism or second mice. This mice, three, or the third place, if we inject the orange color substance inside the mice, after few days we see that the mice is dead. And when we take the serum of the mice and we try to culture it, we find that there is same organism which was present in the dead mice. So this makes it very evident that how the blood or the serum of a dead mice which was suffering from an infection can cause a healthy mice, because 3 was already healthy. Now after injection only it became sick and it was dead. So this makes us it quite evident that the transmission of some body fluids can cause the disease transmission. And some of the infectious agents and their causative host can be seen over here. You can see bacterium, it causes tuberculosis, pneumonia, streptococcal infection, gonorrhea, scarlet fever, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, and bubonic plague. We won't be studying all of it, we will be studying only the ones which are there in our syllabus. So similarly, viruses also causes so many diseases, and you have to remember at times the questions are asked that, suppose rubella, what kind of pathogenic infection does it cause? Or is it caused by virus? Is it caused by bacteria, fungi, or protozoan? So you should be aware that which disease is caused by which organism. So that in that case, in that way, these all names become very, very important. So for viruses, AIDS, influenza, herpes, hepatitis, poliomyelitis, measles, infectious uh, mononucleosis. These are various diseases which are caused by viruses. Even rhinovirus is one of the common cold virus which is responsible for common cold. Fungi causes athlete's foot or nail fungus, ringworm, or histoplasmosis, candidiasis. These are few diseases which are caused by fungi. Protozoan infection includes the amoebiasis or malaria, trichomoniasis, or various other diseases. Similarly, helminths also cause ascariasis or lymphatic filariasis. So keep in mind these all names, and we will be discussing in details about some of the diseases which are there in our syllabus. But when we end this video, let's have a quick look at how the infection is transmitted. The first infected person is coughing, and because of expiration, some while the individual is exhaling, during that time some of the droplets they are coming out and they are getting deposited at different places, even on some wooden objects or some steel objects. Now when any individual comes in close contact with these individual, when they are speaking, then they will infect the normal healthy individual. Even if they speak at times in a room, or and the room is closed room, then there is a chance that an individual who is sitting quite far away, that person can also get infected. So this has to be kept in mind. Now formite means the surface infection, like suppose someone is coughing and or someone has just coughed and they use their hand for closing their mouth. During that time some of the droplets they got stuck in their palm. Now whichever object they are touching with their palm, that object is also getting infected. And if some third person comes and touches that same object, that individual will also get infected if the same hand is used to touch that individual, like that individual uses to touch himself or herself. So this is how the transmission is very very fast in case of communicable disease, and which is happening in case of the coronavirus right now.